Hello Fast Trackers, my name is Rahil Ghazni and I'm the Director of Fast Track Training, and today we have another great episode for you for the Life in the UK test. It is a global superpower, and we are going to go through all the questions that are found in this test, as well as the learning that goes into this particular chapter, this particular part of the Life in the UK test. So get yourself a cup of tea, put on a like, subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you get the next video that comes in this series. Sit back, invite all your friends and family in the room, or let them go, let them leave the room, it's your choice, and let's get you past the Life in the UK test the easy way. Let's get started. Alright, Fast Trackers, so we are going to go through questions and answers. This is lesson 4, a global power. Let's start with the first question. Question number 1. The Bill of Rights gave the monarch more power, Parliament more power, or the church more power? I'll read that again for you. The Bill of Rights gave the monarch more power, Parliament more power, or the church more power? Now, I'm not going to say anything. Imagine this is the real exam. This is the real deal exam. I can't help you now, but at the end of the presentation, wait until the end and I'll give you all the tips and tricks on how to do it. So what's the correct answer, ladies and gentlemen? Parliament more power. Alright, let's go for question number 2. Newspapers no longer needed a license from 1595, 1695 or 1795. Newspapers no longer needed a license from 1595, 1695 or 1795. Wait, guys, wait. I know you're shouting out already, but just wait until I've finished reading everything. Oh, I can tell, I can hear you even through the screen. I can hear you guys shouting out before I finish saying the answer. Newspapers no longer needed a license from 1695. Well done. Where were the Hugenots from? Spain, Germany or France? Where were the Hugenots from? Spain, Germany or France? The correct answer is France. Well done. Scotland joined with England in 1607, 1707 or 1807. The correct answer is, I'll read it one more time, slow it down. Even I have to slow down. Scotland joined with England in 1607, 1707 or 1807. The correct answer is 1707. The first Prime Minister of England was William Shakespeare, Richard Arkwright or Sir Robert Walpole. The first Prime Minister of England was William Shakespeare, Richard Arkwright or Sir Robert Walpole. The correct answer is Sir Robert Walpole. Very good. Well done. Auld Lang Syne was written by Robert the Bruce, Robert Burns or Robert Brown. Auld Lang Syne was written by Robert the Bruce, Robert Burns or Robert Brown. The correct answer is Robert Burns. Wonderful, very good. I can't keep doing it. Robert Burns was a poet from England, Ireland, Scotland or Wales. Robert Burns was a poet from England, Ireland, Scotland or Wales. The correct answer is Scotland. So Robert Burns was a poet from Scotland. Wonderful. Good job. The carding machine was invented by the Hugenots, Richard Arkwright, Seik Mohamed. The carding machine was invented by the Hugenots, Richard Arkwright or Seik Mohamed. The correct answer is Richard Arkwright. That's right, Richard Arkwright. Which two of the following were from Seik Mohamed? Shampoo, fish and chips, England's first curry house, or yoga? Which two of the following were from Seik Mohamed? Shampoo, fish and chips, England's first curry house, or yoga? The correct answer is shampoo and England's first curry house. Well done. Slavery was abolished in the UK in 1607, 1707 or 1807. Slavery was abolished in the UK in 1607, 1707 or 1807. The correct answer is 1807. Wonderful. Napoleon was the Emperor of England, Spain or France. Napoleon was the Emperor of England, Spain or France. The correct answer is France. Good job. The Battle of Trafalgar was won by Napoleon, the Duke of Wellington or Admiral Nelson. The Battle of Trafalgar was won by Napoleon, the Duke of Wellington or Admiral Nelson. The correct answer is Admiral Nelson. The Battle of Waterloo was won by Admiral Nelson, Napoleon or the Duke of Wellington. The Battle of Waterloo was won by Admiral Nelson, Napoleon or the Duke of Wellington. The correct answer is the Duke of Wellington. Very good. Wonderful. Good job. How many crosses make up the Union Jack? How many crosses make up the Union Jack? 2, 3, 4 or 5? Is it A, B, C or D? 2, 3, 4 or 5? The correct answer is 3. Well done. All right. Okay, guys. So let's begin. Let's get started. What do we see on our screens today? What are we looking at here? We are looking at the king and the queen and the royal families. So the term monarch means king or queen, royal family, or the king or queen is the monarch or the monarchy. So this whole family is the whole monarchy. So king and queen, everyone together. So the whole family. Okay, let's keep going. King William III was one of the monarchies. And don't worry if we're showing a picture of the king and queen here. This is just a demonstration as to what monarchy means. We're actually picking up where we left off in the history. King William III of Orange, the Glorious Revolution. He does not speak English. Which is really interesting because that actually shapes how politics works in England after that. Because if the king doesn't speak English, then the politicians have to learn Dutch, or they have to figure a new way to get the king's approval on certain things. So it created the Bill of Rights in 1689, which reduced the power of the king and increased the power of the politicians. Why? Because if the king doesn't speak English, he needs to give away more responsibilities to Parliament. Now, the king has less power. In your exam, the question will come up, the Bill of Rights in combination with the Magna Carta reduced the power of the king and increased the power of the monarchy. So the king has less power. Parliament has more power now. So you need help from the ministers of the House of Commons and the House of Lords. So King William III needed help, and certain changes came to place where you must vote every 5 years. But also, interestingly, you had we'll go on to that in a second. Interestingly, you had the First Minister position being created. So the Prime Minister position was created as a result of all this. So before that, the ministers would all be equal. The Prime Minister is the first amongst equal, and that's where this person came from. He had to speak to the king, and so that was what happened. The Prime Minister role was as a result of not being able to communicate to the king, and that's why the Prime Minister visits the king and queen and gives them a rundown of what's happening. That's why she's involved, or he is involved, in many of the aspects of the government. Free press. Okay, so this is really cool. From 1695, there was no license needed to run a newspaper. It is free press. So these are 3 examples of the oldest newspapers here. You have the London Gazette. I don't know what year that is because I can't see it very well, but the London Gazette says 1800, I think, or 16, or maybe 1700. I'm not sure. The Athenian Mercury, it says 1693. So the Athenian Mercury, the London Gazette, these are some of the oldest printed newspapers, 400 years old. Very interesting. Okay, so let's talk about the rock stars of the immigrant world. many people went to America. They were called the Hugenots. Anything that I highlight in red for you is going to come up in your test. So who are the Hugenots? They are refugees that came from France. They were escaping prosecution by the Catholics because they are Protestants. And when they came, they brought basket weaving, patisseries, culture and food. They were welcomed on board to England because of the diverse skill sets that they have. Nowadays, we want to push as many people out of the country as possible, but if we recognize that everyone brings a diverse culture with them, and when they come and they set up a shop, they're able to bring that diversity. That's something that we should recognize more, and that's what happened. They were celebrated, the Huguenots, when they came, because they brought basket weaving, croissants, bakery, patisseries, language, skills. They brought a lot of things, and everyone was very grateful to them, and they included them. 1707, Scotland joined with England. So this is the first time we now see England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, the first instance of the United Kingdom. Prior to this, Scotland was still separated. So now we're talking about the Prime Ministers. So after Queen Anne and King George I, they were German, couldn't speak English very well, so you needed help from ministers. So the first Prime Minister was Sir Robert Walpole. I'm going to teach you a secret about Sir Robert Walpole. This is the man here. Sir Robert Walpole has two chins, and he is the longest reigning Prime Minister. As you can see here, 1721 to 1742, he ran for 21 years. Now, if an election lasts every 5 years and a Prime Minister can run 2 terms, that's 10 years. He ran for 21 years. So, Sir Robert Walpole, Mr. Two Chins, has not only the longest running Prime Ministership of Prime Minister history, but he also has the longest chin. Robert Walpole has a very long chin. He has a two chins. It's a secret you can kind of remember. Robert Walpole, 2 chins, longest running Prime Minister, longest running chin. Right, let's talk about the Scottish. They're called clans, or as they like to call it in Urdu and Punjabi, is bradaris. These are clans, these are brothers and families. And as you can see, they are wearing these lovely shalwar kameez, or as we like to call them in England, kilts, and they are plaid. And these kilts is a tradition of the Scottish, it's a proud tradition of the Scottish people, and they are clans. Clans is families in Scotland. So here you have the Bonnie Prince Charlie, and Bonnie means beautiful, it means khubsurat, it means fair-skinned. And as you can see, the artist of this picture, of this portrait, has made him very fair-skinned, and has made everyone else go into the dark. And I think they're throwing roses on the floor. Or maybe the girls are really happy to see them and they're throwing like flowers and things because he's the Bonnie Prince. But bonnie means beautiful. So in Scotland, when someone says, "I have a bonny day," it means, hey, have a beautiful day. You're very bonny, aren't you? Yeah, bonny is very beautiful. So 1745, Charles Stuart of Scotland, Bonnie Prince Charlie, tried to fight with England and he did not succeed. If you want to go into more history details about why he did not succeed, there is history videos out there on YouTube. But the long and the short of it is this: Bonnie Prince Charlie had a good army. He raised a big army from the Highlands to go and invade England. But what happened was the French had sent them a new set of weapons, which were these very long halberts. And you know, these were brand new weapons. He gave the halberts to his troops. The halberts used the troops. The troops used the halbert, and they went off to war. But what had happened was, when they engaged the enemy, which was the English, the English had set up against a riverbed. So the English weren't going to be able to go back, but they were outnumbered 3-1. The Scottish ran up the hill with these halberts and they started attacking the English, but the English used these swords, these short swords, to cut the halbert in half. And so now they had 2 pieces of sticks. They weren't trained in how to use these weapons, and so they broke and then they ran away. And so that's how the Bonnie Prince Charlie lost that battle, because his troops were not experienced with using the the equipment that they were given, brand new equipment from France. Robert Burns, I don't know why I use a Robert for his name, but I guess it's a nice way. Robert Walpole and Robert Burns, Scottish poet, very lovely Scottish poet. Auld Lang Syne, he wrote Auld Lang Syne, which is sang at Hogmanay every New Year. Now this is really important. This comes up all the time in your test. What is New Year? New Year is called Hogmanay. What is New Year? New Year is called Hogmanay in Scotland. And Hogmanay is where everybody opens the doors and they lay out food and drink, and people can walk into each other's houses, put a coal on the fire to keep the fire warm for the house, and then eat and drink and then leave and then go out to the next house. The Enlightenment. There's new ideas about politics, philosophy, science, and everyone has the right to their own political and religious beliefs. Now this is fantastic. This is called the Enlightenment. Enlightenment, think of it like a light bulb that goes off on the top of your head. So the new ideas, the new thinking, the Enlightenment. This will come in your tests. There are 2-3 different variations. They'll say, what is the Glorious Revolution? That was when there was no battle over becoming the new king. What is the Reformation? The Reformation is where King Henry VIII made the new Church of England. What is the Enlightenment? The Enlightenment is a period like the Renaissance where there were new ideas, like a light bulb above your head. So essentially what happened here was they basically took God, they took him out of the equation, and they put humans at the center of the universe. And so everyone was allowed to have their own ideas, philosophy, science, politics, and the idea that everything was meant to be in the framework of God was put to one side. So people started being freer and talking about new ideas and expressions. It's a new way of thinking. Of course, there is still a large section, a massive section of society and the world that follows God, but now there is an even growing section that has a light bulb above their head and says, but what if God is not the center of the universe? What if the earth isn't the center of the universe? What if we are, what if we're wrong? That type of stuff started coming about. So new science and politics. Everyone has their own political beliefs and religious beliefs. That's now a kind of a statement that's happening. This is before the Industrial Revolution. Now, the Industrial Revolution is the main reason why the British Empire was able to conquer majority of the world, was because of its factories, its production of guns, metal, fabrics, many exports, and just basically at this point they are beginning their real superpower stardom. So let's discuss this. Before the 18th century, agriculture is a fancy word for farming. They built machines, they built factories, and they needed coal. So there's a lot of coal mines that opened up. Now many people are moving from the countryside, from agriculture, into the city to find a job in a factory. So what are we talking about when we're talking about the machinery? I'll give you an example. In India, at this time, India produced a whole third of the world's fabrics, and they had an incredible fabric, Indian fabric industry. With this machine by Richard Arkwright, the carding machine, it made textiles super easy. As you can see, there are some textile designs here from the carding machine. It made it super easy. There was no need for many laborers to do the job. So for example, in India, it would take 13 people to do the same job as the carding machine, and this was a lot more effective at mass producing wool and carding. And if you don't know what carding machine is, it's where they get loads of wool together and they just like put it into a fine wool. I think. I've never done it before. Right, so what comes in your test? Richard Arkwright. This is the Arkwright carding machine. It's called Richard Arkwright. He made the carding machine. Please remember that. Canals. Now, in every single city in the United Kingdom, you will find a canal street. And if you go there to the canal streets, you'll usually find it's a very beautiful part of the city. Why? Because these were newly built canals with the help of Dutch canal builders. and it's taking the water out of the it's taking the water out and putting it into the factories to help create steam power. There's a little bit more to it, but it was built so that like resources could be brought to the factory, water could be pumped into the factory, and it brings in it makes connections to the sea. And of course, England is an island, the United Kingdom is an island, so it was quite a big endeavour, but it worked out very well for all the big cities. Yeah, so these are the canals. They're important in Industrial Revolution. Seik D. Mohamed. Now, this guy is important for causing everybody a bit of trouble with their curries. So he is the man who invented the first curry house. He also introduced shampoo, because people weren't washing their hair. Lord knows why they weren't washing their hair. Everywhere else in the world was washing their hair. And he also introduced the Indian head massage, where you do that to someone's head. And try it, you know, here and here, and it makes people relax. They're from Bengal. He was in the army. He came to Britain in 1782. He married an Irish girl. And as you can see, it's really interesting. Let's just have picture time. He did quite well for himself. You can see with his gold chain, with his additional gold chain, he looks like a gentleman with this lovely coat and this lovely ascot, crevasse, thingy-mabob. Look at his pinky ring. Pinky ring often donates, hey, I got money. Another pinky ring, so he has money times two. And then white gloves, because why not? I mean, yeah, that's the style of the times. So what will come on your test? Three things: head massage, Indian head massage, shampoo, and he built the first curry house, the site of Hindustan Coffee House, 1810, London's first Indian restaurant owned by Seik D. Mohamed, 1759 to 1851, in the city of Westminster in the Portman Estate. I don't know what that means, but it's the first curry house. Interesting enough, I think it only lasted for like a year or two until it got shut down. I don't know why, but there you go. Maybe he just started doing catering instead and, you know, made more money from catering. Probably. Right, now this is super important. This is the other reason why Industrial Revolution was so successful. Please make no mistake about it. The slave trade is indescribable. Very few theorists, authors, historians, and survivors of slavery can put into words the atrocities of putting fellow men and women into chains. But in the Life in the UK book, there is only one page described for Life in the UK test, and that is nowhere near enough to describe the contribution that people originally from Africa gave to the British Empire, and the resources in blood, sweat, tears, and the breaking up of families, which then followed the slave trade, and the money that was saved by using free labour. It is vital that we all understand that the Life in the UK test is not entirely always accurate in terms of providing life in the history of the United Kingdom, and this is proof of that lack of accuracy, because it's only one page long. It's less than a page, and the only one question, two questions you'll get in the exam is: when was slavery abolished? 1807. And who was the politician that freed the slaves? Freed the slaves in the Emancipation Act. Even that is a bit of an interesting take on it, because slaves, I can't imagine any other society in the world that would put chains on people and then take chains off of them and then say to each other, oh, well done, jolly good job, well done guys, we did a wonderful job here, let's celebrate that we did, you know, we freed them. Yeah, no, you reset it back to where it should have been, but then of course all the issues that happened from the mental slavery persisted. For example, this is not in your test, but I'd like to tell you about it. 1807, slavery was abolished. However, it was still practiced, in the sense of people were still carrying slaves for another 30 years thereafter, until the British government, under massive pressure, stopped that even further. From and the reason for that was because it was extremely lucrative. People on sugar plantations, the slave owners, had to change their entire economic system. Of course, there were documents that were provided that explained how to look after a slave and codified and said, you've got to give him housing, you've got to give him clothes, you've got to give him food, you've got to give him a bit of relaxation and time to try and keep the health up. But that was only insofar as keeping the commodity of a slave, operationalizing that commodity and keeping that alive. It wasn't for to look after them. They still had their families broken up, and they were still traded and pushed to different places. So we make no apology here when it comes to outlining the issues that we find in the Life in the UK test book, and things like this is what we've been talking about to our students for 10 years. Please do not look at this as an accurate history of Britain. It is 1 page long, and the contributions that were made by Africans in the British Empire are massive, huge. In the sense, it's the same for India. India and the continent of India, what we call India now, made massive contributions. You can walk down a street in London and see so many buildings that were built from the money that came from the East India Company. You can see that Industrial Revolution was part of the rise of the British Empire. The other part was slavery and colonialism. So again, going back to the test, and again, we make no apologies for explaining this to you, because if we don't explain it to you, people believe that this is okay, but it's not. Slaves from West Africa, 1807, slavery abolished. That's the only. There's two questions, that, and then another one is, I remember the second question. There's only two questions. One is, when was slavery abolished? 1807. And who helped free the slaves? The Quakers. The Quakers is a Christian group that pushed the bill through Parliament. That's the only two questions in the test. Right, let's carry on and let's move on to the next part. American War of Independence. Again, another part of the exam which is only like less than a paragraph long, but it had massive repercussions for the British Empire. 1760s, Britain had much of the Americas, and Britain wanted to tax the landowners. So in your exam, anything that comes in red, this comes up. Britain wanted to tax landowners, therefore the American War of Independence happened, and fighting started in 1776. Actually, interestingly enough, I think America was always going to try and push to become independent, because the distance between Britain and America and the transatlantic sea was so big that they thought that there was no way that the British would really be able to maintain Americas. We're too far away, we're going to do it ourselves, because there's nothing between Britain and, like, there's just ocean. So that kind of gave this idea that, look, we're going to just do our own thing, we're not going to be part of Britain, we're just going to be independent. And so by 1783, Britain lost much of the Americas to the massive disdain of the British monarchy and the ruling class, because there was untold resources in the United States of America. Rainforests as ancient as the beginning of time, resources, agriculture, growth, income, all the things that they've always wanted, they couldn't have now because they'd lost it. Right, after that, you have the war with France in 1789. This is Napoleon, Emperor of France. Now, this is an extremely intelligent man. He was called, depending on what perspective you come from, but I think you can all say that this is he was the leader of the French army, and he comes in quite a lot in relation to Admiral Nelson and in relation to the Duke of Wellington. Now I'm going to show you a secret for this test. Napoleon is the Emperor of France. He fought against Admiral Nelson in the Battle of Trafalgar, and the British won. And this here is Admiral Nelson, As you can see, he is using a tower. He is on a tower. Admiral Nelson died at the Battle of Trafalgar. He was the admiral. He died, and then they brought him back in a barrel, in a pickle barrel. Is it a pickle barrel, or did they put him in a wine barrel? They basically kept him. They put him in a wine barrel. They kept him preserved and brought him back home, and then they buried him. And this is the Nelson's column in London. If you're from London, you'll see this Nelson's column, and then Admiral Nelson standing at top. The best way to remember this is like he's as tall as a ship. He's on top of a ship, and this is how big the ship is. And then these are the people below. Now the trick is the Battle of Trafalgar was actually on water, and this here is the Battle of Waterloo, which was actually on land. So you got to think of the opposites. That's the secret here. The Battle of Waterloo was on land, and the Battle of Trafalgar was on water. So the British won the Battle of Waterloo in 1815, and this is the Duke of Wellington here. Now Wellington was also the inventor of the welly boot, because I think how it went is that he was always in war pretty much and trampling through mud, and he invented the rubber boot so that he could get through mud a lot quicker. He later became the Prime Minister and became a national hero, but he is the Duke of Wellington. So again, Battle of Trafalgar on water, Battle of Waterloo on land. What do you need for water battles? You need an admiral. Admiral is a general of water. What do you need for land? You need the Wellington, the general, the Duke of Wellington. All right, let's talk about the Union Jack, which is the three flags. So here's what's going to come in your test. This is what you want to focus on. How many flags are in the Union Jack? Well, you have the St. George's Cross of England, that flag. You have St. Andrew's Cross of Scotland, that flag. You have St. Patrick's Cross of Ireland. And when you combine, and that's the correct one. I think this one is not as, that one there is correct. Here, guys, this is the Irish flag. This one, I think, is the English, similar to that one, but it should look like this. It should be crossed like that. And this is England, that's Ireland, that's Scotland. So the Union flag, three flags, is England plus Scotland, which makes that flag, plus Wales, which makes that flags. So there are 1, 2, 3 flags, but there are 4 countries. Sorry, no dragons. Although, can you imagine if there was a giant dragon in here somewhere? That would make the flag very, very interesting, but unfortunately Wales is not allowed to have a dragon on the flag. Okay, well done, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very, very proud of you. Fantastic. You even listened to parts of history. I think this lesson is where we start to see the relationship between you guys, foreign nationals that come from all over the world, and colonial links with becoming British. So let's go through the questions, but this time I'm going to help you, because we've just gone through everything. So I'm going to help you with this. Right, so first question. The Bill of Rights gave the monarch more power, Parliament more power, the Church more power. The correct answer is Parliament more power. We reduce the power of the King in the Bill of Rights, and in the Magna Carta it makes Parliament more power. Newspapers no longer needed a license from 1595, 1695, 1795. We remember this, guys. 1695, the Mercury, the Athenian Mercury, the Gazette. Where were the Hugenots from? The rock stars of the immigration world. Spain, Germany, or France? They were from France because they were escaping the Catholics. So the Hugenots were from France. Scotland joined with England in 1607, 1707, 1807. Scotland joined with England in 1707. Well done. 1807 is the emancipation of slavery. The emancipation of slaves. Emancipation means to free. And Scotland joined with England in 1707. The first Prime Minister of England was William Shakespeare, Richard Arkwright, also Robert Walpole. Remember, guys, he has the longest standing history of the Prime Ministership of the United Kingdom, And the longest chin, it is Robert Walpole, Mr. Robert Walpole. Auld Lang Syne was written by Robert the Bruce, Robert Burns, or Robert Brown. The correct answer is Robert Burns, Auld Lang Syne, the Scottish poet. Robert Burns was a poet from England, Ireland, Scotland, or Wales. Sorry guys, I gave you the answer in the last one, but that's how I always remember it. Robert Burns is a Scottish poet. I just, you carry on repeating it again and again, and you can answer 2 questions. The carding machine was invented by the Hugenots, Richard Arkwright, Seik Mohamed. The carding machine was invented by the Hugenots, Richard Arkwright, or Seik Mohamed. The correct answer is, it was invented by Richard Arkwright. The Arkwright carding machine. Arkwright carding machine. The carding machine does the work of 13 Indians. And that's what led to the decline of the Indian fabric industry, and led to the rise of the British fabric industry and lace and things like that. Very, very famous. For example, Nottingham lace was famous around the world. Which of the following were from Seik Mohamed? Shampoo, fish and chips, England's first curry house, or yoga? Ooh. What do you guys think it is? Come on, remember he shampooed people's hair and he shampooed their first curry, made a vindaloo for them. Curry house, 1810, Hindustan, and shampoo. Well done. Slavery was abolished in the UK in 1607, 1707, 1807. Now remember, Scotland joined the UK in 1707, so it can't be that one. 1807, that's right. And remember, slavery still persisted and slaves were still carried for the next 30 years at least, until the government was forced to really clamp down, but it was still being practiced. Napoleon was the Emperor of England, Spain, or France. Napoleon was the Emperor of England, Spain, or France. The correct answer is France. He was French. Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon Bonaparte was the Emperor of France. And he had an army. The army was called La Grande Armée. And it is the reason, I didn't actually mention this before, but the reason why Napoleon was so intelligent and so clever was he was able to move a large amount of troops in a systematic order in an army system which is used by every single army and government today. The La Grande Armée has corps and it has everything that an army would need, and it moves in its own function. That's exactly how they use it today. That's why he was so intelligent. He was a visionary of warfare. The Battle of Trafalgar was won by Napoleon Bonaparte, the Duke of Wellington, or Admiral Nelson. Remember this, guys. Opposites. The Battle of Trafalgar was on water. You need an admiral for the water. Therefore, think of the opposites. Well done. I'm very proud of you guys. You got it. You smashed it. Well done. The Battle of Waterloo was won by Admiral Nelson, Napoleon, or the Duke of Wellington. I'm going to keep quiet now. I'm not going to say anything. You guys figure it out. Opposites. The Battle of Waterloo was won by Admiral Nelson, Napoleon, or the Duke of Wellington. Correct answer is the Duke of Wellington. Battle of Waterloo. You could even go WW on this one. So look at the first letter and go Battle of Waterloo, Wellington. WW. WW. That's another way of looking at it. Okay, last question. How many crosses make up the Union Jack? 2, 3, 4, or 5? Well done, easy one. 3. Rolling my R's. Well done, team. Good job. All right, fantastic. Well done. I'm very happy for you. You smashed it. You did a great job. Okay, guys. So you have just finished another lesson for the Life in the UK test. We hope that you really enjoyed it. Now, remember that this is for educational purposes. It's not accurate to the real exam in the way that the real questions are exactly what they use. But it's going through the Life in the UK book. It's the things that we've seen with our students all the time, and we're sharing them with you. So if you'd like to share this with others, please teach others whatever we teach you. leave a like, subscribe, hit the bell icon because you can see the next video straight away. And if you need any help from a teacher, we are the #1 online teachers for British citizenship exam, and we can help you pass your life in the UK test first time very, very, very quickly. There's no problems. We've been teaching it for so long that we can help you straight away. So if you've got a home office deadline, if you're just not getting it or you're too busy at work, yes, this is definitely the right place for you. Look at the description below. There's a telephone number, free assessment, a link to our website. You can practice some more questions on our site. And yeah, don't suffer alone. Get help. Students are 86% more likely to pass their exams with the help of a teacher. That's because a teacher can show you all the tricks and tips much faster than if you tried by yourself. Okay, then that's all we have time for today, Fast Trackers. I'm very proud of you. Keep up the hard work, and I'll see you on the next episode of Life in the UK Test. Take care.